The world's most famous performance coach doesn't drink. Here's why. All right, guys, welcome back. I'm doing another video in the series on successful people who do not drink. Be sure to go back and watch my video on Albert Einstein and the alternate history that would exist if he did drink, because Einstein is a famous non-drinker. And today we're talking about no other than Tony Robbins. Now, Tony Robbins is a name you don't have to introduce, but in case you don't know who he is literally considered the world's top performance coach, #1 wealth strategist, #1 wellness strategist, #1 business strategist. This man has advised 4 US presidents. He's worked with Oprah, Serena Williams, Leonardo DiCaprio. His empire has reached 50 million lives over almost every country on this planet. He has the most watched TED Talk of all time. Tony Robbins is a force, and he is a non-drinker. So what does it look like when you put a man who is obsessed with peak performance and actually look into what his relationship with alcohol tells us? I can't wait to dive into this video. Now, I am personally alcohol-free 8 years now. My name is Karolina Rzadkowska. I'm the author of this book, Euphoric, Ditch Alcohol, Gain a Happier, More Confident You. And I can personally attest to so many of the strategies that Tony has used in order to build such a peak performance life in my own alcohol-free journey. And I just love showing, because we live in a world that glamorizes alcohol so much and affords people so much status and belonging when they drink, I want to do the total opposite. I want to create status and belonging around being rebel non-drinkers. So I love to highlight successful people who don't drink, because let me tell you, there are so many of them, and so many people who aren't talking about it are actually using this as their secret to success. Okay, let's go back and really unpack what Tony Robbins can tell us and his non-drinking story. So first of all, Tony Robbins grew up in an abusive household. His mom was addicted to both alcohol and certain drugs. And, there was a lot of chaos involved with that. She could be abusive emotionally, mentally, and even physically. And Tony Robbins often had to face the brunt of that and even try to protect his younger siblings from the chaos inside of the home. He had multiple fathers growing up, so his mom would date different men who became proxy stepfathers to him. And on one occasion, he saw his stepfather drinking beer, and he got interested. He was about 13 years old, and he talks about this story in his book, Awaken the Giant Within. And so his mom told him, hey, if you want some beer, you have to drink the whole 6-pack. So, he's 13 years old. He starts his first beer. He starts chugging it, whatnot. I don't know how many beers he gets in, but he gets violently ill, physically just so disattracted to alcohol. He never touches it again. Now, what's so uncanny about this story is that this single experience completely rewired his nervous system and his subconscious around alcohol. Because here's the thing, a lot of us have negative experiences with alcohol when we first start drinking. I mean, when your body is not used to alcohol, it is a very toxic substance. That is why most children and teenagers have these kind of violent, occasions where they throw up. And I'm sure it might have happened to you too. I started drinking regularly when I was 17, but I had instances where I did try alcohol way before that. I remember when I was 13 years old, my friend and I went to camp, and I brought a beer from my father's fridge. One beer, we went into the bathroom and we split it, and we couldn't finish it. We were choking, gagging, almost throwing up. Like, it was so disgusting to us. We couldn't even finish half a beer. And I had other occasions in my life where, as I started getting more occasions where alcohol was involved, it's like you just had to fight through that and keep on drinking to finally get to a point where you're desensitized to alcohol's true effects. We call it tolerance, but it's kind of a scary idea. Like, truly your body wants to vomit, wants to get rid of this toxin, this poison, and yet we push that down and keep drinking so that we get used to it and almost become tolerant to this poison that no human body should be ingesting. But Tony Robbins learns the lesson very quickly, and it cements something into his subconscious. The thing is that, in Tony Robbins' world, he teaches a lot about the pain versus pleasure framework. And what this means is that all humans are operating either chasing what gives them pleasure or trying to avoid what gives them pain. And we make these categories in our brain of what is giving us pleasure versus what is giving us pain. And a lot of times there's a lot of contradictory things in there, where the things that are actually bad for us and not serving us in the long run give us that temporary pleasure, and the things that would actually be really, really good for us and serve us in the long run give us that temporary pain. And so his model is really effective on how to be able to switch what we associate pain and pleasure to. So for example, a lot of people don't like all the effects about alcohol. I mean, I don't know a single person past the age of 18 who actually wakes up feeling like $1,000,000 after a night of drinking. Even after just 1 or 2 glasses of wine, can we really be honest with ourselves and tell us that our body wakes up feeling like crap after that? And so most people do associate pain with hangovers. They do associate pain with rough sleep. They do associate pain with saying something out of integrity when they were drinking. But the thing is that they associate even more pain with the idea of not drinking. They associate more pain with, potentially not fitting in, not getting this immediate gratification, not having this source of pleasure, whatever it looks like to them. And the pleasure in alcohol is so temporary, but it wins out in the day of what I'm going to chase for the pleasure versus the pain. So in Tony Robbins' world, we have to switch this. And this doesn't just go with alcohol. How many people want to launch a successful business, but they're too scared to put themselves out there and actually get visible and show up and sell? So in this case, of course, they want to have successful business. That's what they're attaching pleasure to, but there's too much pain associated with everything else. So in Tony Robbins' world, and this is something I teach in my 5X certification on becoming an NLP practitioner, we need to change the neuroassociation of what we're linking pain and pleasure to. And this truly changes everything. Another principle that's so key from Tony Robbins' work that really has, enabled so much change. Obviously, he doesn't drink. He has led such a successful life. He is probably one of the most successful people on this planet. I mean, he's not just financially well off, he's successful in fulfillment, he's successful in impact. His words and his philosophy have reached more people probably than any other leader in the personal development space. So, this man, would it even have been possible for him if he was dulling himself with alcohol this whole time? But another thing that he teaches that is something that he has gained mastery over that most common people don't, is that there are a lot of things that change our state. And we're always chasing a state that makes us feel more alive, more passionate, more on fire. But we find these short-term solutions that don't really change the state in a sustainable way. It's like we have external strategies for inner problems, is what Tony Robbins says. And you know what it is. It's those quick fixes. It's the alcohol. It's the scrolling. It's the, quick pleasures that we get from things that don't actually lead to any sustainable fulfillment in the long run. And so Tony teaches that, being able to change our state, that's what so many people do when they're reaching for a glass. You have such a hard day at work. You're so frustrated with your boss. You just need something to take the edge off, so you reach a glass. The thing is that I would argue you don't actually want the alcohol. You want the feeling you believe alcohol will give you. And this is something that I have said time and time again to my clients and my students. You don't want the alcohol, you want the feeling you believe alcohol will give you. One, I argue that the alcohol isn't actually even giving you the feeling that you want. And two, you are a powerful creator in creating the feelings that you do want to have. And Tony teaches this as well, and he calls it state change. And this is another thing that I also teach in my 5X certification as you become an NLP practitioner. Because the ability to change your state is one of the most powerful things you could ever do. When you want to go from frustrated to excited, when you want to go from depressed to hopeful, being able to change your internal state is truly, truly everything. And Tony, because he never relied on alcohol or these kind of external things, he learned to build that within himself over and over again, and he is a master at it. When he says go, his body goes, right? I mean, this man speaks on stage for 10, 12 hours at a time with the fullest energy possible, right? This is what he's done to master that. Another framework I think is so important to mention from Tony Robbins' world is his 6 human needs. Now, I'm obsessed, Maslow also has the pyramid of needs, but once I learned Tony Robbins' 6 human needs, it blew my mind on how impactful this framework was. His 6 human needs include certainty, uncertainty, love and connection, significance, growth, and contribution. Now here's the thing, he calls the first 4 needs the lower needs, meaning that we can often meet these needs in unhealthy ways. Certainty, it's the need to have comfort, predictable routines, knowing everything is going your way. So many people who feel stressed or, going through so much life, when they want to relax at the end of the day, alcohol becomes their certainty. Uncertainty, you want adventure, you want some risk in your life, you want to do something new. Alcohol becomes that thing on a Friday night that's like, ooh, we're going out, this is exciting, right? You want love and belonging. We don't think that we're drinking to get love and belonging. So many times we're doing it to fit in, to get camaraderie, to do what everyone else is doing and not be the one who's missing out. And in significance as well, this plays into a relationship with alcohol. Significance is the need to feel important and like you matter. So many people use their ability to, know about fine wines or to be able to drink like the guys to actually feel significant about themselves. It's like that cool girl factor or that cool guy factor. Now, alcohol does not contribute to the last two needs of growth and contribution. That's why it's never going to be fulfilling. But I am obsessed with the 6 Tony Robbins human needs, because when you are able to recognize how you're using alcohol to meet those needs, you can actually reverse them and meet your needs in such healthy ways without alcohol. I actually share this in my book, Euphoric, Ditch Alcohol, Gain a Healthier, More Confident You. And hey, if you want to get the free chapter of this book, I have a link below to grab the very first chapter of this book, so you can see all about what you're going to learn and just to get this incredible framework. And you can also buy the rest of the book on Amazon, also in the link below. But I just love these frameworks that Tony Robbins has to show that, you know, he never needed to have alcohol. Yes, he had this instance in his life where he was completely repelled by it. And I also imagine that we would have a complete alternate history if Tony Robbins was a drinker. I don't think he would be this prolific, high energy, high impact kind of guy. I don't think he would be one of the most successful people who not only makes multiple millions, but also donates so much back to charity. I don't think we would have the guy who teaches us on how to change our state and how to reprogram our brain if Tony always relied on alcohol as well. He is literally the proof of concept of successful people who don't drink. And let me just tell you honestly, I was one of those people who drank out of status. Now, it sounds really cheesy to say I wanted to be cool by drinking, but hey, there was a part of it that I literally was programmed just like everyone else, thinking that, you know, drinking was the key to being an adult. And so, you know, I needed to see other leaders who weren't drinking in order to switch my sense of status from glamour and Sex in the City over to people like Tony Robbins who don't drink and are showing you what's possible in life without alcohol. And I have a running list of some of the most successful people on this planet who do not drink alcohol. And I'm gonna be doing more videos on my YouTube channel exploring why, how, and how that has impacted their life. Whether they never drank, whether they quit drinking, whether they, you know, decided to go sober curious, it doesn't matter. I want to profile more of these people to give you a sense that if you're deciding to reevaluate alcohol or have already gone alcohol free, you have made the smartest and best decision of your life. And I'm showing you exactly what kind of crowd that you're hanging out with now that you have made that choice. So be sure to go check out the free chapter of Euphoric in the description below, and do subscribe to my channel because we have so many more videos coming soon on successful people who don't drink. And go back and watch the story about Einstein as well, because the smartest man in the last century was a non-drinker. But of course, right?